My next guest is a native Johannesburger, but spent a large part of her life in Mozambique, where she worked for LM Radio, and became a household name in South Africa. She has worked on Springbok Radio, and more recently for Radio Highveld. She says that she is a television addict, but she's terrified of being in front of the cameras. She doesn't have to be. Please welcome Auntie Evie Martin. Evie Martin, welcome to Late Night Live.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
No, it's a pleasure. It's the first time we've met, actually.
Yes.
Famous name like you, too. Now, you're born in Johannesburg, but you moved to Mozambique and spent a great deal of your time there. What made you move to Mozambique?
My husband.
Your husband?
Yes, we used to go to, my family and I, we go to Mozambique, to Sabc for holidays about twice a year or whatever. And when I was 18, I met Arthur.
Arthur's your husband?
That's right.
Right.
And we didn't get married straight away. Well, what I mean, I let him wait 3 years. And then we got married. And, of course, I had to go and live in LM.
Right, because
he's a Mozambican.
He's a Mozambican. So you went to Lorenzo Marx?
Lorenzo Marx.
Lorenzo
yes.
Marx.
I don't know Maputo.
No, it wasn't Maputo in those days.
Lorenzo Marx.
We'll get on to that in a minute. You then joined LM Radio, but not as an announcer, first of all.
No, when I went to live in Mozambique, that was in 1950, I went to the Radio Club de Moçambique, that is the Portuguese broadcasting service, and I went to apply for a job there in the office. I mean, I never ever thought that I'd be an announcer. So when I applied for the job, they said, well, you're just in time because we need someone to compile the programs, because, you know, most of the programs for LM Radio were request programs, and so I started there as a compiler.
Right, so you're basically marrying requests with songs.
That's right.
How did you get...
preparing the programs to go into the studio.
How did you get to be an announcer?
At the time, David Davies was there. He was the manager, and when he discovered that I could speak Afrikaans, he said to me, well, I think we should use you, you know, on the programs, because people used to write in Afrikaans, they used to write Afrikaans letters, and most of the announcers that were there at the time couldn't speak Afrikaans. So I started translating the messages, and he said, no, but this is silly, why translate? I mean, let's use you and you can go on the air. Of course, I was petrified, I didn't want to go, and I said, no, I could never do that. And he said, come along. So I went for my first audition, and he said, well, it's not too bad, but you can do better. So go home, lock yourself in your bedroom, talk to yourself, do what you like, and come back and do a second audition. I did that, and I did the second audition. He said, well, it's much better, but there's still room for improvement. Then I didn't get as far as doing the third audition because there was an announcer there. Her name is Valerie Mayer. She's now living in London. She used to present the Housewives program. It was Housewives' Choice. And she was in hospital that morning. And as I came to work, David said to me, you're on the air at 10 o'clock. I said, what are you talking about? He said, well, Valerie is ill. She's in hospital, and you have to do the program. So I said, well, I can't. It's impossible. He said, you just have to do it. And I went in and I presented the program. He was very satisfied. It was bilingual. And from then, I just went on. Been
announcing ever since. And you've done, I believe, almost every... Well, you did almost every program for LM, apart from the hit parade, I believe it was called in those days.
I presented every single program that was on LM Radio except for one, and that was the hit parade. It was always done by David Davies, or if he was not there, by someone else, a man, because they felt it wasn't sort of a program for a female.
Right.
Not like today.
Yeah, well, a lot of people still say it's not a program for female today. It's strange, you still don't get many female presenters on radio, do you, in Australia?
No, not a lot. They're managing to break through.
Like Radio Sheila.
A lot of women on the television, though.
Yeah.
Enormous. It's very strong on television.
Well, typical male chauvinist pigs, really. They're lovely to look at, but not to listen to.
They're good journalists, too, mate. No.
Now, Evie, so there you were now on LM, broadcasting to South Africa.
That's right.
And enjoying every minute of it.
Every minute of it.
And then your life changed drastically, September 1974.
74, yeah. Well, that was a very, very sad thing that happened, Kevin, and very unfortunate, too. I mean, we knew that the terrorists were there, that they were coming, but we never, ever, ever thought it would happen so suddenly. It really happened overnight. On the 7th of September, the Portuguese government from Portugal and the Mozambican government and Frelimo were to meet in Lusaka, the Lusaka Accord, which we all thought was a peace treaty, whatever, but it wasn't so. What actually happened that day in Lusaka...
I believe your husband was there, wasn't he?
Yes, I was going to tell you about that. What actually happened there was that Portugal gave Mozambique away on a silver platter to Frelimo. That's what happened. And it was a terrible shock to everyone, and I was very worried because my husband was a pilot with a charter plane. He took the reporters and the photographers up to Lusaka, and of course he was there with a co-pilot. And somebody phoned me and said to me, well, you know, your husband won't be coming back now because now they're going to, he's got to stay there because he's now a revolutionist and they're not going to let him come back into Mozambique, you see. So, of course, I was so worried about that. I was up the whole night. I was wondering what's going to happen. And I had to collect him the next day at about 3 o'clock at the airport because they were coming back. In the meantime, lots of things were happening at the radio station. And a friend phoned me, also a pilot, and he said, please do not leave home and do not come to the airport because they're stoning all the cars and they're setting them alight, and we will get your husband home. So I said, well, is he coming? So they said, yes, he's on his way. We've had word from him already from Beira.
So he managed to leave Lusaka?
Yeah. Yes, he did. And it's a long story, but he did manage to leave and arrived safely. And he arrived home at about 7 o'clock that evening in a jeep with about 4 military police with him and all that, you know, protecting him, bringing him home.
What was happening at the radio station at this time?
Well, the rebels, the Renamo, I think it is, yeah, you know, person forgets, but they took over the radio club, which we, you know, it's Radio Club de Mozambique. Of course, LM Radio was in that same building. And there was announcements on the radio and everybody was going mad and screaming and not knowing what's happening. It was so confusing because then the Portuguese army was there, then it was Frelimo, and eventually you didn't know who was actually taking over. And
you were still broadcasting at the time?
Yes, the broadcast was going on. We had to continue, and I went back to work on the... I went to work on the Sunday and on the Monday, and then on the 10th, pardon me, that was on the Tuesday. That was the last day that I set foot in that building because I was doing my show. On the Monday, Jerry Wilmot, who was manager there at that time, he said to me, look, when you're announcing, they will come up to you and ask to go on mic. Don't say anything, just give them the mic and let them say what they want and just continue the program.
Did that happen?
That did, yes, they came in. And the guy with machine guns, I tell you, they were parading up and down in front of the studio. Now, we had glass doors, glass windows, shall I say, in the door, and they were parading up and down there. I was so nervous, I could hardly talk. Anyway, so the one man comes in, the record's playing, and he says he wants to go on mic. So instead of me just fading out and giving mic, I still said to him very nicely, do you want it now or do you want to wait till the record's finished? He said, now. So I just turned it down and gave him the mic. And, of course, he was telling everybody what had happened and what they're doing, and they've now taken over, and to South Africa, of course, because we broadcast in South Africa. Anyway, so the Tuesday when I went to work, round about 10 o'clock, now my husband was back. He was working at the airport, and he took a little radio with to listen to see what's going on. And the Tuesday morning, I was on the air, and at about 10 o'clock, Jerry Wilmot comes running into the studio. He said, grab your bag and run home as fast as you can. Just go. And only the secretary was there because nobody had gone back to work since that happened on the Saturday. And so I just grabbed my bag and I called Teresa, and that's my friend that was working there. And we ran down the stairs. We wouldn't get into the lift because we were on the second floor. We ran down the stairs, and as we were running down the stairs, we don't know who they were, whether they were the rebels or the Frelimo or whoever they were, but they were all coming up the stairs, and I heard them say in Portuguese, hurry, 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 because they're coming through the park across the road. And I said to Teresa, what are we going to do? Where are we going to go? She said, just don't stop, just keep running, keep running. And she was about 5 or 6 blocks away. She lived 5 or 6 blocks away from the Radio Club building. And we just ran all the way, and we just collapsed when we reached her home. In the meantime, my husband's listening to the radio. He hears me disappear off the air and heard Jerry Wilmot talking. So, of course, he gets into his car and he rushes off to the radio club, and he wants to go in. They won't allow him to go in, of course. And so he said, but I have to get in. I've got to look for my wife. So someone in there knew him and said, okay, come along, let's go and look for her. So he went up to the studio, found Jerry Wilmot there. So he said, where's my wife? So he said, she's gone home. So, of course, she's gone home with Teresa. So he went home. I wasn't home. So then he dashed to Teresa's house and found me there. Well, we were all as white as can be.
I can imagine.
And it was terrible. It was really very, very bad. There was shooting going on in the streets and everything.
You eventually managed to get out of
yes.
Ellen there.
This happened on the 7th, and then we, on the radio, they kept warning people. You see, we lived in Somershield, which was the new suburb, and it had these new houses with the big glass windows and that.
The posh end of town.
Well, and they were telling us, whoever was living in Somershield, to get out because they were coming to attack us, you see. So we dashed off to a cousin of mine who lived on the 7th floor of a very tall building, and we went in there, and we grabbed everything we had in the fridge and just took off and went to her place, and we stayed there till the 17th, and then we managed to come up.
Right.
My husband came in his car, I came in mine. We drove up, and we left someone there to pack our furniture. We got our furniture out and our cars. And
it must have been such a relief when you crossed the border.
Yes, I cried bitterly. We lost 2 houses in Mozambique, one big home and the one across the bay, a little sort of holiday cottage.
And the irony of the situation, I believe, Evie, is that then a few months later you went to join the SABC, and you had to do something rather drastic before they allowed you to, which was resign from LM Radio.
Yes, well, you see, when yes.
Can you believe it?
But you see, that is, because when I applied for the job, for the position in Lourenço Marques, it was with the Portuguese, Radio Clube de Moçambique. You see, it wasn't LM Radio. So I was actually working for Radio Clube de Moçambique.
So you had to resign
and so
from
I had to resign from them because of pension and all this. And I had to resign and then reapply here for a job. And I got it eventually. Mr. Siebert got me the job on Springbok Radio.
And then came Radio Highveld.
Yes. I was very, very happy.
Yeah, super.
It was marvellous.
We'll talk some more in a moment. And we'll be back with some more Late Night Live. Ladies and gentlemen, Evie Martin.
When we're out of the classroom, I've got to take special care of the kids. One minute I'm one of the gang, and the next I'm a guardian angel. But I'm always a friend. And I've always got to be in control. There isn't time for a headache. I had one a while ago, but a Grandpa headache powder soon put me right.
Grandpa's famous triple action formula is in fine powder form, so it works quickly to bring fast, effective relief.
Ah, Grandpa. And now, win a home worth 100,000 Rand with Eno and Grandpa.
Win! That's right! With the Bee Cheese Mega Music Mag. Megastars in your box of Bee Cheese. Collect them, swap them, share them, and win! Over 100,000 Rands worth of prizes have got to be won. By you! Get your Mega Music Mag with Megastars in the Bee Cheese pack. Share Madonna, Whitney, Terence Trent, the Pet Shop Boys, Aha and Prince. The Mega Music Magazine competition from Bee Cheese. The thing to share!
Bee Cheese is the thing to share. Bee Cheese.